Of all the actors who could convincingly convince you they're both an ethereal monarch and someone who'd gladly run you through with a blade just for sport, Cate Blanchett is the reigning queen. Some actors spend entire careers trying their hardest to seem imposing on screen, but Cate Blanchett just glides into a room, lowers her voice by 1 degree, and suddenly it feels like the temperature drops. Whether she's stepping into comic book mayhem or dragging an action thriller into psychological horror, Blanchett is that rare breed of performer who can make you scared and captivated all at once. Someone who enjoys evil as much as she enjoys delivering Shakespeare. Let's talk about Hela in Thor Ragnarok, a role that let her go full comic book villain in a way nobody saw coming. Hela is the goddess of death, a character who could have been just another CGI-infused antagonist swinging a big weapon around. But Blanchett, she takes that and turns it into an acting masterclass. From her very first scene, that wry,
"Darling, you have no idea what's possible,"
she oozes an almost casual cruelty. Hela doesn't just want power, she enjoys the process of dismantling Thor and Loki's world piece by piece. Blanchett plays her like someone who knows she's going to win, and that makes every subtle smirk and whispered threat feel all the more dangerous. Even as Hela destroys Mjolnir like it was made of peanut brittle, Blanchett never loses her composure, creating a villain who feels genuinely godlike. Less Marvel supervillain and more a dark Shakespearean monarch who enjoys a bit of genocide with her afternoon tea. Blanchett did what most MCU villains can't do, even across multiple appearances. She completely owned the film from the moment she appeared. Thor Ragnarok is one of those movies that dances between humor and spectacle so often that most villains would risk becoming an afterthought, just there to fill time until the next joke or action set piece. But Blanchett never let that happen. The second Hela shatters Mjolnir, you realize this is someone who can flip the entire tone of the movie by just standing there. Every time she's on screen, her presence is so magnetic that the humor momentarily falls away, and you feel a genuine sense of threat again. And it's not just that she's powerful, it's the way Blanchett enjoys her power. Every stride is deliberate, every glance dripping with condescension, as if she knows that everyone around her is a guest in her world. Even when Hela's tossing around armies or casually declaring her intent to conquer Asgard, Blanchett manages to make her feel dangerous in a very personal way. It's that ruthless, aristocratic bearing, looking like someone who'd sip fine wine while deciding who to destroy next, that keeps you watching every tiny expression change. Unlike other one-note Marvel baddies who growl their way through fight scenes, Hela feels like a character who's going to haunt the film long after the credits roll. It's a shame that the Russo brothers don't give her the call more often, because plenty of actors have stepped into the Marvel machine and been handed big speeches or flashy fight choreography, but few have been given, or earned, the space to make their villain feel like they're stealing the whole movie. Blanchett managed to make Hela into a villain who doesn't just fight the heroes, she dwarfs them. Even though she only appeared in one installment, you can feel her absence in the sequels. There are villains with entire arcs across multiple films who never achieve the pure imperial dominance that Blanchett wields in every scene. It's that combination of star power and actual menace that made Hela stand apart in the MCU's crowded pantheon of antagonists. Even surrounded by gods, aliens, and talking raccoons, Blanchett walks into frame and reminds you who the most dangerous person in the room really is. Then there's Irina Spalko in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, who's basically what you'd get if you crossed a Cold War spy with a Bond villain and added Blanchett's theatrical flair. Irina is the kind of character who holds a sword like a baton and smiles as if every word is a calculated chess move. Blanchett's version of the Soviet scientist is so intense, it's like she's in a completely different movie, leaning into the campiness just enough to keep it fun, but never losing that eerie sense of purpose. Even her accent is sharp and clipped like a whip crack, each consonant precisely placed as if it could cut glass. What could have been a one-known Soviet baddie in lesser hands becomes a hypnotic force every time she's on screen. Blanchett is one of the few actors who can make reciting pseudo-scientific dialogue sound like it's part of a ritual you're not sure you want to see completed. And then there's Hannah, where Blanchett plays Marissa Wiegler, a CIA operative so cold-blooded that you'd believe she doesn't sleep. She just powers down like a sentient drone. Marissa is a predator in a tailored suit, pursuing Saoirse Ronan's Hannah with a level of icy resolve that feels less like a person and more like an unstoppable algorithm. Blanchett throws herself into that role with a focus so intense it becomes chilling. Her southern drawl is subtle but deliberate, an unsettling contrast to the clipped, efficient brutality of her character. Every look she gives feels like a verdict being read. It's one of those rare roles where you realize that the most terrifying antagonists don't need superpowers. They just need Blanchett to show up, stare you down, and let the silence do most of the work. Of course, not all of Blanchett's villains wear black and twirl swords. Look at Lou in Ocean's 8, for example. She's less of a villain and more of a morally gray partner in crime. Lou is someone who knows how to work an angle, sell a con, and look good doing it. Blanchett plays her as the effortlessly cool accomplice you'd trust with your life and your bank account, all rolled into one. Lou is a subtle reminder that Blanchett can make even light, breezy antiheroes feel like they have a secret you probably don't want to ask about. Even in a role where she's not wielding world-ending powers, Blanchett brings that sharp, unpredictable energy that hints at a darker edge just beneath the surface, kind of cinematic curse. That's what sets Blanchett apart when she steps into these darker roles. There's never any doubt that she's enjoying herself, whether she's playing a literal goddess of death, a ruthlessly efficient spy, or someone a little more ambiguous. Blanchett doesn't aim for generic evil. She aims for something almost mythic. Every villainous character she's played feels alive with their own histories and motivations, and she never leans on cartoonish shortcuts or tired tropes. Instead, she plays her antagonists like they genuinely believe they're right, or at the very least, they believe they deserve whatever power they're chasing. That's why, even in a franchise as loud and bombastic as Thor Ragnarok, her Hela feels terrifyingly real. That's why Marissa Wiegler feels like someone who might exist just down the hall at the CIA. And that's why every time Blanchett steps into the role of a villain, you can feel the entire story shift its center of gravity toward her. When Cate Blanchett is the villain, or even just leaning into her darker side, it's like watching someone masterfully set fire to a stage and then waltz through the flames without breaking a sweat. Her antagonists aren't cardboard cutouts, they're meticulously rendered figures, complex and strangely seductive, dangerous because they believe in their own narratives. Blanchett never plays evil for its own sake. Instead, she dives so deep into these roles that they leave you wondering which version of her is the most real, the ethereal elf queen or the ruthless goddess of death. Either way, one thing is certain. Whenever Blanchett steps into a villainous role, you don't just watch her steal the scene, you feel like she might steal the whole story.